So welcome back to Founder Friday. This week I want to talk about a question that I actually get asked a lot, which is how do I find a technical co-founder / how do I find a good developer? And I think it's something we could probably treat as a similar question, although there's obviously other questions that come up around just co-founders in general. But I think the general idea is if you're non-technical, how do you find someone to code your product for you? How do you convince them?
Yeah.
Where do you even go? How do you talk to them? Like all that stuff. And I have my co-founder, Chris Castiglione, with me, and he's the teacher of our Programming for Non-Programmers course, which is all about this. And at the end of this episode, we also will have an announcement, something exciting that we're announcing.
Cool.
So yeah, what do you think?
How to find a technical co-founder? Well, I think it's helpful to know how to speak a little bit of geek speak, to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is
so you don't look like an idiot, right?
So you don't look like an idiot.
Yeah.
I think often the one thing that separates a person from entering any kind of new field is often vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be going to become a lawyer, there's probably a top 10, top 50 words where if you just knew how to have those conversations, you could at least follow along.
Yeah.
And development's a lot like that.
There's a blog, I think it's called Whartonite Seeks Codemonkey.
Oh,
Have
yeah?
you heard of this?
No, what is it?
And it's all of the engineering people, I think it's at UPenn, where the Wharton kids, that's the business school, are emailing them, pitching them to code their ideas. And they post all these emails live and how shitty they are. They're like, this person doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just looking for this. And it's just making an example of these are people who don't understand the language.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, this is just an idea. I'll offer you 1% of the company and $1,000 to build this app for me.
This is amazing. What is this, Whartonite?
Whartonite Seeks Codemonkey. I'll post a link to it below.
Yeah, I've probably told you this before, but were you there when Kanye West came by General Assembly?
I wasn't physically there, but I heard about it.
And he talked for an hour. I wasn't in the meeting, and then Adam comes out, and he wanted to start a startup. And Adam,
Kanye did.
Yeah. Kanye wanted to start a startup, and he was looking to hire developers. Oh, and then we're like, so, are you going to work with them? And then Adam's like, nah, I have no idea. He's like, I have no idea what that guy's talking about. The richest guy in the world walked into where the best developers were in New York City, and Adam was like, no, this is just stupid. You need to know what you're talking about, You need to have something.
I'm not surprised. It reminds me of that list of instructions that Kanye West that were leaked from his latest fashion show.
Oh, yeah?
It's the 20 rules that he gave his models.
Oh.
And it's there's typos. It's written in all caps. It's printed out. And the rules are contradicting each other even in the same list where it's no smiling, but be casual, but don't slouch, act straight. Don't try to be cool. No eye contact. Don't look at the jumbo screen. It's amazing. And it's just be yourself, but also do all these
things. All right. Well,
so, yeah.
I'm going to give you some tips on how you can be yourself and do all these things.
Cool.
So this is some advice that comes from my Programming for Non-Programmers course, in which I try to get you up to speed on the vocabulary that helps you talk to developers, talk to finding a technical co-founder. And one of my favorite emails that I've seen that is really effective came from a friend of ours, at a company named Derby Jackpot. So I'm just going to read this email to you. And as you're watching along, what things do you notice in this email that work for you and that seem really enticing? So this is an actual email that was sent, and I'll read it right now. So, hey, Chris, this is the developer. I'm working with a team of 2 to build an online horse racing app called Derby Jackpot. Our research shows that there is no legal way to gamble on horses in America. Derby Jackpot solves that demand by offering the first online horse racing app. In the past 6 months, we've worked hard to validate our MVP, and now we're certain there's a market demand of over 100,000 people. We have strong domain experience. My co-founder has over 10 years experience on the business side of horse racing. We're fully funded and offering equity and/or a very competitive salary. Thanks for taking the time. I'd love to tell you more. Tom. So he constructed this email, and this worked really well at hiring the first 3 developers that were at the company.
Cool.
And I had a great conversation with him about it. So there's a lot in here. This is a loaded email, and I'd like to deconstruct it with you, and and while you're watching along, what do you notice? What works? And this and what applies to you? What can you show up to the game with? So
Cool.
So Mattan, what works about this email? Or what works or what doesn't work?
So
what
it's
do you like
clearly
about it?
very well written, and it's like direct without being too sort of like this is the best thing ever, which I think developers probably hear a lot of. They're like, this app is going to change everything. Like, this is clearly optimistic, but I think it's rooted in like evidence, which is a lot of developers appreciate.
Yeah.
So the whole thing about our research shows like here's why this thing needs to exist. We validated our MVP, and we're certain there's a demand for over 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Like that's something a lot of developers are going to be interested in before they go out and build something.
Totally.
Because they probably don't know anything about the thing you're proposing.
Definitely.
When you go to them.
Yes.
So that's useful. And then just sort of ending it there, like keeping it short and sweet, keeping it interesting, and just saying, thanks for your time. Would love to tell you more.
It's a short email for how packed it is with information, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like few sentences.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Mattan, about the audience watching? You watching at home might not have like a fully funded company.
Mm-hmm.
You might not have everything in here.
Yeah.
But what can you start with? I mean, I can see a few things that are exciting to me, but I'm curious, like what's exciting to you in here?
Yeah, that's a good question, because as I was reading this, I was thinking of myself, if I wasn't funded.
Yeah.
I mean, you certainly want to be reasonable with equity. If you don't have money, if you're not funded and you can't pay someone competitively, at the very least, like you should be talking about a significant amount of equity.
Nice.
Right? And one of the mistakes I see often is when, someone with an idea wants to hire like a developer and they don't have money to pay them. They're sometimes stingy about equity too.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, that's kind of a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Right? Because if someone's coming on early in the founding team or as a co-founder, you're talking about like either splitting equity or at least giving them like 10% or like a really sizable chunk if they're part of the founding team, which definitely changes over time. But that's like one of the costs of not having money to pay people competitively.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky because maybe you put in the first 3 months or year by yourself and then you feel like it's yours. I mean, that was the case with us. You know, like you were working on it before I was. Yeah. I
mean, what I would say at that point is like obviously you feel like a lot has gone into it that you've put in already, and you should be rewarded for that. At the same time, if the success of your company depends on bringing this person on to build this thing, then it's like a sunk cost. And you think, well, from here on out, in the future, are you expecting it to be 50-50? Like, are you expecting that person to put in as much work as you need them to? Think about that and the success of the business. That's awesome. Sort of my thought.
That's awesome.
What else?
I also I think there's some things that you can do in here, even if you don't have funding. Validating your MVP is a great start for that. Obviously, we have a course here with Evan Kimbrell, which I could plug and say he's amazing as far as that goes. As well as having domain expertise. I really like that bit of it. Knowing Tom, who wrote this email, him and his brothers, they know about horse racing, and it shows, and they know how to talk about it. And sometimes I'll see people who are looking for co-founders for their idea, and maybe they're making something in the medical industry, but they don't know anything about hospitals or doctors or any of that world. They're coming from music or something. Sure. So I think having some congruity, sense of being congruent with what your background is, and then finding something that works for you there.
Cool.
Is really nice. Yeah.
Totally. We can dissect this further, although and something we should probably talk about
what do you think?
After is well, how do we even find that developer to send the email to in the first place?
Interesting.
Where do we go?
Yeah.
Or where, should you go somewhere online? Do you go somewhere in person? And then the pitch and the follow-up is obviously the important part.
Yep.
So people are probably wondering about that as well.
Yeah, that's great. Do you want to talk about it now?
Well, do you think there's more that you want to cover in this thing?
I think that's pretty good. I have this up on my site. It's at pfnp.me, which is just the notes that I link to for my Programming for Non-Programmers course.
Yes.
So these are some of the supplementary notes for my course that you can check out. Yeah. And this is up there for you to check out. And there's a bit more on there. So I would say that's probably enough.
That sounds totally good.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I would, that I've seen people make mistakes in is to do a little bit of research and maybe talking to technical people to get a sense of what technology might be required.
Yeah.
Because I've seen really bad pitches where someone is like, I'm looking for like an Android or Swift developer to build this web app.
Right.
And you're like, Swift is for mobile apps. Like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
And if you're going to use like technical, like I like this email because it doesn't use any technical lingo, and that's fine.
Oh, great.
If you're going to use technical lingo, be very clear about what it is. Otherwise, you might look like an idiot. So don't use it and pretend you understand what it means. Like, you know, either know sort of a little bit about what kind of developer you're looking for, which might be useful, because you may spend your time pitching people that are like front-end developers but can't even do the back-end stuff. More about that in Programming for Non-Programmers course, obviously. And it's fine to be like, would love to know what you think. Like, don't really know, what do you think is the best technology that we should be used to building this?
Totally. Yeah. I like that. Cool.
So what do you think about, in order to find good developers?
I think my network has always proven to be the best.
Okay.
Having a large network, being able to get intros through people has always been the best.
So asking people for intros.
Yeah, asking people for intros. Yeah.
What do you do, how do you start out in terms of asking people for intros?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah. Here's what I'll do typically for a job post.
What do you think? Yeah.
I'll write up a little description, kind of like this email, this pitch.
Yeah.
And then I'll think of like who are the 5 or 10 people who might know someone.
Got it.
I'll forward this to them and say, hey, I'm looking for, a developer. Here's a short backstory, and then below I've sort of pasted the email.
Yeah.
You can use this. You could send this around to people. Even if they're not looking for a job, they might know someone.
Got it.
And asking each person, maybe send me 1 or 2 people.
I think there's a really good takeaway from what you're saying there is that when you do send it, you want to make it as easy as possible for that person to help you.
Yeah.
And I get this all the time, and it's fine, but it could be better, which is that can you find me a developer? Do you know a developer? Even like, do you know a WordPress developer? It's like too general. If you could send over what you're looking for, anything from budget to more specifically just some details.
Yeah.
We use the word scorecard a lot. There's like a scorecard of like the things you're looking for, the things you're not looking for.
Sure.
It really helps me connect you with somebody. So you want to make it really easy for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just send over all the info so they don't have to follow up and be like, well, what's your budget? Are you looking for someone part-time or full-time?
Do they need to be in the office in New York, or could it be remote? There's just so many like things that I could probably write up a different email like this, which would be for
getting the intro.
Yeah, for like getting the intro, which is kind of interesting. Yeah.
Cool. And then just to keep it short and concise, you mentioned your network, but for people who don't have a network or they don't feel like they, are connected to the scene, what are some ideas you'd recommend for them, places that they should go, events or places they should visit where they might be able to meet people?
It always helps. The people are where it's going to create the company, So I think you want to get on that mindset, whether it's going to meetups, and there has to be something in your town no matter where you're at.
Sure.
In getting involved in a school, kind of like what we're doing, with like your startup course.
Sure. Do you mean like a coding school also?
Well, in a coding school is great, or like what you do with your startup course, like you have 100 people, you're starting to build a community of entrepreneurs, something like Y Combinator. These are all different options. You don't need to do all of them, but I think finding a way to have those conversations. With people. Know somebody. I think this is the thing, is like there's somebody in your life, like whether it's like an uncle or whether it's like an uncle has a friend. Whereas if you're a good person and you can like get things done in life, your uncle or your cousin's gonna want be able to recommend you. So it might not be the most obvious person. You might not go, oh, I know a developer, but think of a connected person in your community or in your surroundings, and then ask that person, and they might be able to help you.
Yeah. I think that's really the biggest thing, and doing it 5 or 10 times because it might take 1 or 2 people before they start really thinking of people. Doing it in person is also helpful, and then they can sort of think of people on the spot.
Yeah.
If for whatever reason like there's no events around you guys,
what do you think?
Online, there are various places you can go. There are like Slack channels, like official Slack channels that you can join. There's like IRC. A little bit intimidating for people when they're starting, but there's places like GitHub and Stack Overflow you can go to. Reddit. Just be careful. Anytime you enter a community that you're not familiar with, don't just go and sort of spam your thing, because people they get that. So people can be very
you will get kicked off of Reddit if you go in and start spamming.
But just go in and actually start to have like a sincere and thoughtful conversation and get a sense of what the community is like before you start reaching out.
Yeah, there's a great one of our students, Alex Gahaya, introduced me to the subreddit Entrepreneur. Cool. I think it's just /entrepreneur or entrepreneurship. Cool. And it's really great. You can't even post until you comment and have enough conversation with people. Right. But I started doing that a few months ago, and it's really cool because everybody is kind of helping each other, and you start to know each people's handles. I mean, this may sound like basic advice for some people out there, but honestly, I don't know. I'd never really gotten so involved in a channel before, in a subreddit before, and it was cool. I was like, oh, this is definitely a way that you can meet people. Yeah, people were connecting, so it was inspiring.
It's a really good point, and I know that for people out there who have an idea and just want to get it built, it can be frustrating. Like you just want someone yesterday and you can't get started. But it is, honestly, it's all about the long game, whether it's a developer or a co-founder. Like you really, you want to create that good connection. You want to make sure that they're going to be around in a year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it takes. And so there's really nothing, there's nothing like taking that extra few weeks and getting to know people and getting to know community. Yep. So is that it?
I felt pretty good about that.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you guys found that helpful in terms of advice for finding a technical co-founder or a developer. If there's any follow-up questions or specific things that we didn't cover, post those and we can follow up on that and maybe talk about it next week or in a few upcoming Founder Friday episodes.
Yeah, cool.
So thank you guys. Post in the comments or shoot an email to founderfriday@onemonth.com.
Oh, and I have a course coming up, but I'm not going to announce it right now. But I have a live programming for non-programmers coming up. Yeah. That's all we're saying right now because we don't have the date yet. But stay tuned, and I believe it's going to be launching on the 1 month site.
That's excited. I will tell you that this is something that we're doing like exclusive limited time, and there will be limited spots. Yeah. And access to this guy, access to the community. Yeah, for 4 weeks. We'll have open dialogue and feedback. So and great advisors and great projects. Good place. So when can they find out more about that? Within the next week, we'll be launching it. So stay tuned to the 1 month site, or maybe we'll put a little something in next week's video. Next week's maybe I'll join you again, and we can talk more about it. That'd be great. I'd love to have you. See what happens. Thank you, guys. All right.